Okay, psych people. This part two is not very long. It's very short, actually. I started to get terrified that I was going to lose all of my part one, which was the limbic system and the parts of the brain. So I had to take a break. Anyway, this is the part two, and part two, I just want to kind of review. Now, remember a couple things. You're homeschooling. I'm trying to give you digestible doses of psychology lecturing, okay? And I, as I've mentioned before, I just really want you to watch these lectures. I know these aren't brilliant, but I'm not giving you a lot of homework. Now, you'll have a homework assignment for Friday. And I don't put deadlines on the homework assignments because of the fact that I know you are under a tremendous amount of stress, and I don't need you opening up your computer and seeing a little red flag or getting a notification. I'm a psychology teacher, so it would be go against everything I kind of believed in if I were adding to your stress. These are incredibly stressful times. Okay, incredibly stressful. We are all worried about people, but watch my videos and learn a little something. So here, I'm going to review a little bit. Okay, two major components of the limbic system. And remember, the limbic system is it sits inside what we associate with the brain, in between. So you got the brain up around here, and then you got this limbic system just below that, it sits between our old brain hemispheres, and our old brain is, and I might be wrong on this, cerebellum cerebrum, but it sits in between the old part of the brain, and it's very important, this limbic system, because it houses your lateral and your ventromedial hypothalamus, and it also houses your amygdala, okay, which is your fear and aggression component. Now, remember, we talked about Paul Bucy, who was able to put a lesion in a monkey's amygdala, and it took the monkey from being a psychotic monkey to a peaceful, everyday loving monkey. Okay. Although monkeys are, God, man, they'll rip your face off and your genitals. That's how they're trained to fight. And they also freaking have superhuman strength. So I'm gonna warn you, if you like your face and you like your genitals and your extremities, don't be getting a pet monkey. All right, yeah, I guess I'll just leave that on this tape. That's true. That is really how they work. They're horrifying little beasts. They're like humans, but they have all that visceral survival mechanism without the developed cerebral cortex elements that kind of mediate that. Whatever, man. And you couple that with super strength. Ooh. Anyway, I forget what I was telling about. What was I talking about? Bucy and the monkey that he was able to turn into a chill monkey. James Olds and Peter Milner, I think I mentioned and then took a break. In 1954, I told you about the electrode into the hypothalamus, the lateral hypothalamus, which they didn't mean to do, but they did. And they realized that they could control the rat's pleasure center. And remember that the amygdala and the hypothalamus were very important to our survival because it's where we get our sexual drive. It's the communication for that sexual drive. It takes messages from the brain and sends them off to the glandular areas so hormones can be released. So they were able to not only get rats to adhere to like certain rules based on tapping a thing 7,000 times for a pleasurable electrode response. But I believe it was these guys that also were able to, because the hypothalamus regulates when you're hungry and when you're full, they were able to make it so that the rat never stopped eating. And so it turned into like this giant fatty, which, but the reason this is so important is because they started to show us that we could stimulate through electricity or through, going in and manipulating parts of the brain that corresponded directly to things that we thought really had no real clear-cut area for. And by the way, we use our whole brain. I don't know where the hell the 10% thing comes from, but we do use our whole brain. I might be, no, I'm not wrong on that. We use the whole brain all the time. You're taking in tons of sensory information. So, with that said, I'm looking at how much longer I've gone. I want to try and keep all this down to like 20 minutes. So, with all of that said, remember what we've talked about. We talked about the limbic system, the hypothalamus, the amygdala. We talked about the lobes of the brain, the frontal, okay, which is your judgment center and your muscle movement center. We talked about the parietal, which is your touch and sensation or body position. We talked about the occipital, which is your vision, and the temporal, which is your hearing. Okay, so I'm going to post these vids with an article, and the article will be about something that deals with advances in neuroscience as it applies to psychology. Okay? Hey, love y'all. Fight the good fight. Give your parents a big hug for me, and I will see you, I hope, in April.